I had done a post on canine dogs and understanding racist words and or slurs and body language. And I have a question from a commenter that says, do you think it's possible to unlearn racism, or is it too ingrained in people? And I'd like to try to answer that. Hi, my name is Dr. Natalie Jones. I'm a licensed therapist. This is a good question. It's a complex question, and I'll try to answer it based on my experience here in the United States. I can't speak for other countries like South Africa, Germany, and things like that, but I'll speak to what is happening in the United States. So in psychology, there was a study done by Sharif where he did it with little kids. It's called the Robber's Cave study. And in that study, what he found was, he had an in-group of kids versus an out-group of kids. And what he found in that study was that, when people are competing for resources, that's when you have things like anger, and you have people that try to hoard resources and, therefore create this outgroup. Like the top dogs are going to get the resources and screw everybody else, essentially, and to put it in layman's terms and to simplify it. But he found that when the group works together for the resources, like, everybody has to work together in order to obtain the resource, then that's when there's a lot more cohesion and less competition for that. So essentially what he was saying is that when you guys work together and there's no competition, when you guys are working together towards a common goal, then you have more cohesion within the group. You have to be essentially forced to stop fighting, and other people, it has to be collaborative, and other people cannot put a leg up over each other to compete for the resource. When one group has an advantage, they may use people in order to get what they want, but once they get to where they want to be, they're going to hoard all the resources to themselves. They're going to form a favoritism with their own group, and so they'll hoard all the resources, but if they got their favorite within a group, then they'll hoard with them and their buddies, right? Which is what we see. So in other words, competition becomes fierce. What I will say is I think at least from what I've seen in the time that I've been on Earth, I think, and this is called conflict theory for anybody who wants to look it up and research it and look into it, Sharif and the Robber's Cave and things like that. What I have seen in terms of how this works is both groups need to be facing a problem equally, to whereas race is not a determining factor in terms of how you're going to get out of it, and there's a real threat to your safety and security, and so you have to be collaborative in order to solve this problem and in order to get out of it. And race is not going to give you a leg up or down. Your survival depends on working together. This is Dr. Jones talking now. This is my thing. What I will say in my time living on Earth, I've only seen this happen maybe twice. And one time is in a natural disaster. So it's in a hurricane. Everybody's equally affected. People are hurt. Resources are limited. So everybody's kind of like down and out, destitute, and we're all affected equally. I've seen it that way. The other time, again, was a disaster, but this was on a bigger scale, and this is 9/11. So when the planes attacked the buildings and all that kind of stuff, and you had people working hand in hand to get each other out of the rebel, and it was a shared goal. Race could not be a factor in terms of rescue. We're all equally impacted there, but the goal is to survive. The goal is to get people out of this and get them to safety. It was devastation across the United States. Everybody viewed it that way, and everybody was held in suspense and grief-stricken because unassuming people were affected by this. And so race, at least from my viewpoint, was not a factor on who's getting saved and who's not getting saved. You have black rescuing whites, whites rescuing blacks, Asians, everybody sort of working together to get rescued and get out of this. It was very much an all hands on deck situation. And so therefore, everybody was working together. The other scenario in which I've seen this play out, where it's not really ingrained yet, is in children. A lot of children don't have any concept of what racism is until they are taught that. So little kids, you may have a little white kid saying, "Oh, I want to be black and get braids in my hair," something like that, or I'm black, or something like that. And so you'll see little kids who don't have any sort of knowledge of social constructs of racism, essentially. And racism is really more of a social construct in my mind. It's not really real, but it's put there. It's a real phenomenon that happens, and the fact that it happens and it affects people's livelihood. But when you think about it, it's just a made-up construct for people to compete and hoard resources, very much like what Sharif in Sharif's study. But that's my thoughts on it. It continues to be ingrained in people because people continue to benefit from it. But at least people continue to perceive that they are benefiting from it. So it could be the perception of benefit, but it can also be the benefit such as systemic and, societal and all that other kind of stuff, because racism has many different levels to it. I think the other thing about the United States is it's an individualistic society. So the United States at its core has this every man for himself sort of mentality where we can all be kind of like crabs in a bucket. You might have communities within the society, but our society as a whole here in the United States does not have a huge emphasis on community just for community. So I may be a part of a community because it's going to benefit me somehow, but I don't have, I may not have a community mentality. So, and I think that's important to say, because you have other societies that are more of a group-based society. You have some societies that don't even play competitive games and things like that, because they view we're all a community here. We're all going to share resources. We're all here working with each other. So we may barter. We're going to trade. No one's better than the other person. And if you have a problem, we have a problem. And so we're going to look at it from a collectivist standpoint versus an individualistic society. Individualistic, I'm on my own, is every man for himself. Collectivistic, hey, we're a group, we're a people. This is how, we think together. You don't make decisions on your own. We make it as a group. So anyhow, hope that helps. Like, comment, follow, and share.